Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Buzz with
Tina and
Dick. It's a great morning out there. It's not snowing. It's balmy out. I love it. What is the weather? What is the weather?
I've not got that loaded up yet.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have weather in a minute. In the meantime, Scott Smith, Emergency Management Director for Franklin County, will be here at 7 o'clock. And then
Michael Bradley,
former professor at Motlow.
Yes, and current pastor at Decherd
Presbyterian. Yeah, he's going to be here. They've got an author's night. They're going to start Monday nights at the church, and Michael will tell us about that, the first one.
Okay, looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me.
Where'd your voice go?
I don't know. Took a vacation.
It is a holiday in some places, but not here in Franklin County.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't been able to find anything online about what's open or closed, except Franklin County Solid Waste is closed.
Okay, well, listen, if you've got an off day and you want to talk about what you're going to do on your day off, I know Martin Luther King Jr. Day has sort of transitioned into a day of service. So if you're free and out and about today, give us a call at, here's the number, 615-962-3345. And maybe later we can get that number up here. But it's 615-962-3345. Give us a call. We'll see what you've got to say about this holiday.
And I'm going to post the phone number in the comments underneath the live stream. So
Oh, okay. Good. Well, there we are. It's going up on your Facebook page as we speak. So this is the national holiday. The third Monday in January celebrates his birthday. And it used to be observed they would have speeches and prayer circles and things, which are all very wonderful, don't get me wrong. But it has sort of morphed into a day of service. And Michael, if we've got that video ready, it's a little scratchy, a little bit old, but then this happened some time ago. So forgive us on that. And let's see what we've got about the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday.
If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's a new definition of greatness. By giving that definition of greatness, it means that everybody can be great. Because everybody can serve.
Our country, this wonderful place, this little piece of real estate that we call America, was built, founded on service. We didn't necessarily wait for local, state, or the national government. We came together as a people, and we just did it.
I was one of 4 6-year-old children, girls, to integrate the public school system here in New Orleans in 1960. When I look at the Norman Rockwell painting and I see myself, I always say that the lesson I took away was a lesson that Dr. King tried to teach all of us, and that was that we should never look at a person and judge them by the color of their skin. I crossed a picket line, a mob every day for a whole year. There was a woman there to greet me. She did everything she could to make my day fun. She not only taught me, but she read stories to me. We played games. I knew that if I got past the mob and inside of the building, I was going to have a great day. And it was because of her. So she showed me her heart. And I began to realize that there was no way she was like the people outside. I couldn't judge her the same way. And so I believe at that moment, I learned the lesson that Dr. King died trying to teach us.
In 1957, when I was 17 years old, I wrote Martin Luther King Jr. a letter. Told him I wanted to attend a little college about 10 miles from my home, and this school didn't admit black students. He wrote me back and sent me a round-trip Greyhound bus ticket. I traveled to Montgomery and saw Dr. King standing behind a desk. He said to me, "Are you the boy from Troy? Are you John Lewis?" I was so scared I didn't know what to say or what to do. And I said, "Dr. King, I'm John Robert Lewis." I gave my whole name. He was so inspiring. He was so moving. And somehow, in some way, I wanted to become part of that movement, and I did.
For a long time, people fought to get the King holiday, and it finally got achieved nearly 25 years ago. But it was sermons, talks, meetings, lunches, and one day I said to myself, "This is wrong. If Martin Luther King were here, he'd say, that's not what I want on my day." I teamed up with John Lewis in the House and many Republican and Democratic colleagues of mine in the Senate.
We felt that Martin Luther King Jr. was a man of service, and his day, that federal holiday, should be a day of service.
When the Congress passed the legislation, it was sort of like a reading wedding vows, that we were marrying a commitment to serve the common good and to let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. We lost a great soul. He took chances. He lived daringly. He didn't let the fear of harassment or persecution deter his mission. He stayed focused and committed. While he died at a young age, he lived a long life in terms of service and witness. He piled into those 39 years, 100 years or more of service and preaching and loving, caring.
My father said an individual has not started to live until he or she can rise above the narrow confines of his or her individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of humanity. He would certainly applaud the fact that our nation has set aside a day where we can become more other-centered rather than self-centered and really focus on the broader concerns of humanity, because that's really the person that he was and the way that he lived. Nothing's insignificant. As you're celebrating the King Day, remember you are important, you're significant, and you have something that you can offer to make humanity a better place.
We at the Corporation for National and Community Service are the federal agency that is so proud to be leading the Martin Luther King Day of service and volunteerism throughout the country. We are asking people on Martin Luther King Day to volunteer in their community. Ask a friend or family member or coworker, or find someone who may be lonely or feeling isolated and ask them to join you and serve your neighborhood. We're asking people not just on Martin Luther King Day, but to volunteer throughout the year and help others and serve.
As Coretta Scott King proclaimed,
the greatest gift Martin could receive
is if people of all racial and ethnic backgrounds
celebrate the holiday
by performing individual acts of kindness
through service to others.
And thank you, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., for this holiday for some of us. And some of us are working, like us, for example. So you can give us a call at 615-962-3345 and tell us what your holiday activity is going to be. In the meantime, we got a few meetings that are coming up this week, county commission meetings.
Yes, 7 p.m. tomorrow night.
That's the full commission at the courthouse. Wednesday, building and grounds are meeting at 5 o'clock. That's also in the courthouse. And then a week from today, the County Commission School Committee. This is not the Board of Education. This is a school committee. They meet at 6:30, and I think they're meeting at the Board of Education, Mary Sharp.
Yeah, I believe so.
This week. So that takes us through the meeting schedule. We'll be trying to cover some of these, and we'll also welcome your calls and contacts. If you go to a meeting that we're not at, let us know what happened.
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
we're here for.
Sure. Well, we would depend on you all to help us cover this big county.
Yeah, all 42,000 of us.
Well, we're talking in terms of the different municipalities. There's quite a bit to cover.
So, and what's your favorite thing? By the way, if you got a birthday today, give us a call, or you can post it on our Facebook page, and we'll pick it up and put it up in here and wish you all happy birthday.
And anniversaries.
Oh, and
also do
anniversaries.
anniversaries. Yes.
I don't forget those at home.
You better not.
If I know what's good for me. Excuse me. Well, some of the issues that are of interest that we've been following are, is the Decherd Board of Mayor and Aldermen. We had some video here that prompted a lot of conversation among people with Mayor Robin Smith threatening to bounce Alderman Carl Smith, no relation, out of the meeting one evening. Carl allowed us how he would stop talking back to the mayor, so the mayor let him sit in on the meeting. That was sort of fun and games. The other thing that happened at Decherd the other day is that Mayor Robin Smith announced that there would be a water rate meeting in his office involving the attorney. He didn't mention at the time it was litigation, but maybe we have that piece on our video. If we have that, Michael, can we run that now?
Thursday, we met back in November, and we decided we're going to have a workshop with our attorney about the water rates we were discussing. That workshop will be, I didn't get that in there, it'll be the 12th. We talked about that back before Christmas at 4 o'clock here. Announcing that because then we'll have to have a special meeting on the 23rd at 6, and then another special meeting on February 16th for this ordinance that we're going to develop in the workshop Wednesday. That's Thursday, the 12th at 4. We'll meet here in my office.
Sorry, what was that? For what?
Workshop.
For what?
Water.
What though?
Well, we're not ready to tell it yet. We've all met about it already. It's just a workshop on the water rates. They know. We discussed this back in November.
Well, they did talk about it in November, but they barely mentioned it in November. Notice that he said a workshop, which is a public meeting. He also mentioned that his attorney was going to be there. Michael, do you have that video that I shot when I went to the meeting?
We do.
Well, here it comes. This is Bossy. The mayor told me I can't come to this meeting.
Why not?
Well, he says you're showing up, and if the lawyer's there, that the press can't be there.
Well, it suits me.
Doesn't suit me. So I'm coming in unless you tell me to leave.
I'd leave if I were you. The mayor has a gun policy here.
I'm asking a serious question. Can I come to this meeting?
I don't have any idea. I just got invited to it myself.
Yeah, he said at the meeting that it was going to be about water rates. He didn't say anything about it being involving litigation. If it's litigation, I can't come in. I get that.
I bet that's what it is, the reason I'm invited, but I don't know that. I got a call.
Let's find out, and then I'll leave, okay?
Well, if he told you not to come in, you better not come in until he comes out here.
I told him that I would leave when you told me to leave.
Okay, then leave then.
All right, Fossey, thanks. And so that's how it went. He told me to leave, and I left. It's very curious about the water rates because, year ago, last November, I went to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen with a complaint that they were still charging a surcharge of $10 a month for each water meter holder to retire a $1 million loan that the city took out.
Right.
Well, they've never used the $10 to pay back the loan. They've got over $1 million in the bank. At $10 a month over the lifetime of the loan that they took out, they're going to collect about $8 million, which is a chunk of money to get from water users, especially when one of the water users uses 9 million gallons a month, or 75% of the total water, but they only pay $30 a month. And the other 1,600 of us water users pay the rest. It comes to about $16,000 a month.
Yeah, well, you're not the only one that have questions. Whenever we posted about this on our Facebook page, we were inundated with comments about why the $10 surcharge is still in place and what they're doing with the money. So it'll be interesting to find out what happened at the workshop.
Yes, it will. I don't understand the litigation part. If the city is involved in a lawsuit, it must be coming from the state. And so perhaps all of the complaints I lodged with the state of Tennessee may be having some impact.
You may not be the only one that's lodged a complaint. So.
I doubt it. So that's something that we'll continue to watch as the year goes on. Both Don Kofer, Carl Smith, and Roy Parton, 3 of the 4 members, and Mayor Robin Smith himself has talked about the problems he has with governing the city. And so they just recently put on a new, Rex Clark is the new city administrator there, a lifetime friend of Robbins, and all-around good guy. I mean, I know Rex.
And he started on the 7th, correct?
He started on the first working day of the year, whatever day that was.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was the 7th. We had a question. Someone said, call in for what? So we've been giving out the phone number, but maybe not being clear about what people need to call in. You can talk about anything. If you're interested or have concerns about the Decherd water, you can give us a call and express your opinion, or use the comments. Call in with your birthdays. If you have activities going on for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, then please call those in. So really, we're here to talk to you, whatever you want to talk about.
Or talk with you, yes. And I think that number that went up on the screen is this morning. That one's not working. We're using the area code 615-962-3345 number. It's we're still a little bit of guerrilla television here. That goes to my cell phone, and you'll be talking on your speakerphone to my little speaker. That's how it works.
And thank you, Michael, for the TV magic. We just gave you the wrong number this morning. We want to go to weather, and I'm not sure if we have it to pop up here, but it's 51 degrees currently, and we are going to hit about 70 today. So if the kids are out of school, they should really enjoy that, and you should too.
And if my cousin is up in Prineville, Oregon, watching me this morning, first of all, go back to bed. And number 2, is it still snowing out there?
Yeah, I think winter forgot about us.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that nature is overlooking us this winter. Look forward to planting season next month.
Right, coming up quickly.
Yes, and did this recent rain help us with the drought? We'll have to get in touch with Ed Burns and see what the official word is on that.
Yeah, absolutely. We have we've already done our meeting review. So, are there anything else to add to that?
Well, the people have been contacting our webpage and with a lot of comments. I think one of the stories that drew a lot of fire last week was the free meals program at Clark and Decherd elementary schools. Both are Title I schools, which means that 25% or more of the student body are living at or below the poverty level. And so they're entitled to this free food. Of course, students that bus to school, they don't get these meals.
Right. This is an after-school program.
Right.
And so it's free for certain ages. They can come in and have supper. And I think they have some other activities for them to participate in, This program does not feed adults. It only feeds children. I think that was one of the concerns that we saw in the comments, was like, who's taking advantage of this program? And it's only for children. It was interesting to me to see the kind of negative comments toward this program.
Well, they seem to come from principally one person.
That's true. The majority were from
the majority
from one
of the people were very grateful that these children will be fed, that there's a program there to feed them. This being an agricultural community, I mean, it's an $88 million business here. These funds that go to these school lunch programs frequently pays local farmers.
Right, and that's good for all of us.
So farmers are on the other end of that, and we buy surplus food and then in turn use it to feed hungry kids. I don't think, if you've got any comment on us, you can give us a call at 615-962-3345 and weigh in on it. Most folks did think that was a worthwhile program.
Yeah, we had a lot of very very positive comments. I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied this morning. And my husband just told me I need to speak up. So I'm going to try really hard to be louder for you guys. I just have a soft voice. But I appreciate the constructive
I like your voice,
criticism.
Tina.
Yes, we have to turn Dick way down and me way up because my voice just doesn't carry. So I'm sorry if you can't hear me, and I promise I'll do better. But we do appreciate the comments. It's the only way that we know that you can't hear me well, because I can hear myself perfectly well.
Plus, it helps that you know what you're saying.
Sometimes. So another really good post that we had a lot of comments on was obviously the threat at the Franklin County High School.
Oh, that was quite a story.
It is. It's a terrible story all the way around. I think this really is more about our culture and bullying than anything. We've seen comments come through on not on our page, but just social media in general, that these kids were targets of bullying, the ones that acted out. And, that's no excuse. I don't want to excuse their behavior or say that they shouldn't have any kind of punishment. I think we really have to look at our schools and bullying and how we handle things. Fortunately, things were handled well. We had a student come forward and say, we heard these things, which is how you want the system to work. So, thank you to whoever those individuals were that came forward to the authorities to let them know that this threat was a possibility.
If you see something, say something. It's
Absolutely.
A very good program. And yes, congratulations to those students that step forward. Sometimes it's tough when one of your fellow students is the sort of the bad guy in this picture.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because you never really know if the threat's real. Kids do stupid things. We all did stupid things, and
oh no, I never did.
Yeah, so you don't ever know if the threat is real, but you can't take the chance that it might be. So, I'm very happy that they stepped forward. One of the things that we saw on our page that people were very upset about was not just the incident and the safety of their children, but the way the school handled it. Not handled the incident, but handled the notification to the parents about what was going on. Because they just received a very vague phone call after their kids were already at school that really had no information. That put a lot of people into a panic. So, I'm not criticizing because I don't know how you would handle the situation, but I know that a lot of parents were not happy with the way that it was handled.
Well, and one one teacher at the school made the comment that that the media were well informed, but not the teachers that were in the school at the time that it was happening. And I think that's probably a valid claim. You know, police, when they get involved in something, their involvement is focused right on that. You call it an incident.
Right.
That was their terminology. What a horrible word that is. But I lost my train of thought there.
I understand.
But it's like a traffic accident. The police are there to cover the accident, and the fact that traffic snarled up on 3 lanes isn't part of their problem.
Right.
Even though it is part of the problem. And the same thing, I think, went with this threat at school. It's a bombing threat. It wasn't an incident. It was a shooting threat and a bombing threat. The fact that it came from the kids doesn't mean it's not valid.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, I didn't want to minimize the severity of the possible threat. I just wanted to, you know, that sometimes the kids that act out in this way have already been ridiculed all through school, and I really didn't want to put more of that on to these individuals. I don't know who they are, so I didn't want to do more of that kind of bullying. I will let the courts figure all of that out and not do that myself. So.
Well, you mentioned it being a cultural issue, and the truth of it is that we have a very bellicose culture right now. You know, we put up our dukes. We've had them up since September 11th, and we're not finished being angry about that.
Right.
And that weighs heavy on a lot of the decisions we make.
It does, and it's a tenuous balance. It's hard to balance, and it's easy for us to sit here and criticize how the school or the authorities handled something, or, you know, criticize the parents of the children who acted out, and you know, that's really unfair. We don't know. We don't always know what our kids are doing. You know, I try to keep track of my 5 children, and so far we haven't had anything like this happen. But I would hope that, you know, if it did, that I would get some empathy from parents and not just be thrown underneath the bus. Yeah. So I'm trying to, you know, just kind of see what happens with this.
Well, and on the subject of throwing people under the bus, let's talk about those $65,000 buses
the seatbelts
that we're going to get with seatbelts in them. Apparently, one of the problems with seatbelts, and that came up as a result of a few very tragic accidents in which children were killed. They weren't buckled in. The problem is, and Flossie Davis and I talked about this, is apparently Floyd is familiar with this as an issue, and he said that he thought it would raise the cost of a bus about $65,000, because that driver has to be able to take care of her or his charges in that bus. And if they get into an accident, then what they have to do is they have to be able to release all of those belts with one lever or one button. And that's what really adds the cost to a school bus, contrary to what it might cost for a car.
Okay.
So it's not just a matter of throwing a belt in there and saying, okay, now you're belted. You have to be unbelted.
Right.
For if there's a bad wreck or a fire.
Because a lot of these children are too young to understand how to get out quickly themselves, so they have to have that mechanism in place to release. Okay, that's interesting. I wasn't aware that that was part of the seatbelt.
This is when we do reactionary laws. You know, we had a horrific animal accident in Franklin County some years ago, a tragic story. A woman lost her life. So the county commission reacted by spending a couple of $100,000 and got us an animal control officer. How that's working out is up to the people of Franklin County to decide. But I know I've got dogs running all over my neighborhood.
Right.
When the animal control people comes out there, they tell the owners of the dogs, don't do that anymore. Yeah, thanks.
You could have done that.
I could have done that, although my neighbor is a little bit bigger than I am.
I don't think that would stop you.
It will. It will. I don't want to do that anymore.
Well, let's take this from the negative to the positive. Again, back to our Facebook page. One of the really popular posts was about a food pantry, a certain type of food pantry that's called a blessing box. One of our viewers let us know that we have one of those in Franklin County. It is at the Cumberland Presbyterian Church. And it's just a little cute small box that has non-perishable food items. And so people that need them are encouraged to come and take them. And if you have, if you have plenty and want to place some in the box, then you just place them there. And it's a nice little thing for our community.
This is a real generous community for activities like this, and which brings up to mind that we had a negative post on the school dinner program that the two schools had, but most people in Franklin County are generous. They share, and boy, they don't want to see burned out families go without or without food or clothing. They put their best foot forward almost every day to help their neighbor.
They do, and the individual that had the negative post, I don't think she was at all saying that we shouldn't feed the children. I think that she's in a profession where she sees kind of the worst of people and people taking advantage of the system. And so, I think those were her concerns, and she kind of got battled a little bit on that. But yeah, we had folks saying, how do we get the kids that are bused in back to the school if they need to come and have dinner? And we have the same program. My children go to Tullahoma School, and we have a similar program there. And we had all summer long they were able to come in and eat if they needed to. And there were a lot of people that got up in the morning and came in. And kids don't get up in the morning unless they need to eat. They sleep in. So I think these are all great programs, and goodness knows we have enough waste in our government that we can put some of that toward feeding our children. So but you're right, it was very positive for the most part, and we learned that if you make a comment, you may get a little bit beat up about it. So
welcome to the United States.
Yeah, and we don't censor comments. So unless there's some kind of that's libelous, maybe we might take that down. And if we don't, we'll hand it over to the lawyers when they come calling. So just be aware of what you say. But but we don't censor our comments, and we have no intention of doing that. We welcome. We're kind of silent here today. I think people are off work, and you guys are sleeping in.
Are they sleeping in? No.
I don't know why my husband's awake. He sent a few comments in. Why are you awake, Mark?
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Hope you enjoyed that praline breakfast the other day.
Yeah, we enjoyed. Dick's wife made us a wonderful pecan praline French toast. It was amazing. So we appreciate that, Linda. Thank you.
Well, and she made another one since then, a different kind, but just as delicious.
We're just going to come stay
I don't know why I'm not fat.
I don't either, between that and the fudge.
Linda does a really good job of making sweets for me, I'll tell you that. It's not that I like. So, but speaking of sweet, the weather's really nice out there.
Oh,
Michael, do we have any weather yet at all?
Yeah, we popped it up a few minutes ago. And it's
there
probably
it
not changed since then.
69 degrees, partly sunny.
No.
We're going to have a sweater.
You're going to lose that later. We're going to have maybe a few showers, but I'm okay with that if it's 70 degrees. As you can see, though, we really have. Let's move our seats. And then he moved it down. But on the radar, there's just a tiny bit of precipitation that's still quite a ways from us. But we'll keep an eye on the weather. And as always, if we have any kind of alerts or anything, we'll keep you up to date on those on the Facebook page. Really on the weather that we've had in the last few days is fog. The fog has been very dense in the morning.
I enjoyed that yesterday. I got up about 7 and just stood and looked out the front window. I'm from Seattle, so I'm used to those kind of mornings.
Right.
Kind of a trip back home. So.
Well, it's really kind of cool. If you like photography, that's a great thing to get out in and kind of take some pretty cool pictures. It is not good for flying a drone, however, as Michael and I learned yesterday. We were out working on a job and had to wait until about 1 o'clock to be able to fly the drone and actually see it.
Yeah. Hate that I missed that.
Yeah, you did. You missed out on a lot of the fun. I do have a note here for all of you college kids or college-bound children. 2017-18 free application for federal student aid, FAFSA as we are so fond of calling it. The deadline for that is tomorrow. So if you want to get in on Tennessee Promise and money for college, get busy today. It's a great program. I was a recipient of not the Tennessee Promise, but the now I've lost my train of thought. The lottery scholarship.
Yes.
That helped me pay for college. I was a non-traditional student recently and went to college and was grateful for FAFSA and the Tennessee Lottery program. So again, some of those government programs that we like to criticize, but they really help a lot of people. Going to college changed my life. So fill out your application. There's lots of help out there for getting registered for these programs if you don't understand them. And call me, I'll help you.
A young man I'm mentoring in Texas. Just had a long conversation with him. He finally got his degree, but he got his degree after he was already hired by NASA.
Oh, awesome.
So he his best foot forward landed right in the best job in the world for him.
That's pretty amazing.
So congratulations. He announced that he got his degree and he had no student debt.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That is a lifesaver for many of our Tennessee kids that are going to get this Tennessee Promise and get an education without debt. What a boon that was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime that someone can get into college, and I know a lot of people say that you don't need college today, that a lot of our trades have kind of gone away that, used to be required for college. And I know I'm a working woman and I'm out in this world, and that's completely untrue. The degrees that I've been able to get have made a tremendous difference in my life and in my income earning potential. I don't believe that. I think trade schools are great, and not, higher education isn't for everyone. You could be like my friend Amanda, who I know is watching, and get 5 different degrees and a couple of certifications and still start your own business. We have a guest that just popped in out here, Dick.
Scott Smith will be with us after the top of the hour and tell us about emergency management and why you can sleep better at night with him on the job.
Do we know, this is kind of throwing this out there because we didn't discuss it, but Sherwood, the last time that you and I had a conversation about this, they had no cell signal, and that was a big issue. Has that changed?
I'll bet you a nickel that you can ask Scott that question. He came with that answer, and that was the first thing that he worked on when he was hired. He jumped into that with both feet, and several committees have dealt with it. So I think Scott will have something to tell us about Sherwood and if they have emergency service up there or not.
Well, I hope that they do, or that they are going to have it in the near future. Do we want to take one more look at the weather in case people are just joining us?
Okay, here we come with the weather. In case you're trying to shoot out of the house at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, you don't have to warm your car up or anything. You can just get in it and go.
My favorite part of the day.
Yeah, when you get up at 3:30 and have to go out and there's no ice, that's pretty amazing for January, so I'm not going to complain. Again, we may have a little bit of rain today, just scattered showers. There's virtually nothing on the radar at this time. So it's supposed to be a really nice day, and again, if you're got the day off or your kids are out of school, you should get out and enjoy the weather and all of the Martin Luther King Day activities that are out there. This is probably one of the warmest times you've had for those activities.
Yeah, I don't want to be a Grinch, but we've got more winter ahead. Don't let this fool you.
Stop it.
Don't put that sweater away. But in the meantime, enjoy these wonderful winter days here in Franklin County, where we are so blessed to not have to warm our car up every morning.
We don't have to shovel snow, scrape ice. Yeah, all of our friends in Michigan are buried right now. So.
Okay. So, well, we seem to have run out of things that we were going to talk about here. We've got all the meetings under that. We don't have any birthdays in there. Anybody send us any birthdays this morning? Happy birthday, whether you've sent it to us or not. Happy anniversary.
And if you have any, you're welcome to call in or post them in the comments, and we'll try to get them up by the end of the show. Today would have been my mother's birthday. I don't know how old she would have been, but she's been gone since '97. But today would have been her birthday, so happy birthday, Mom. I love you.
My goodness, my dad went in '97. Wow, what kind of a conversation is this? And my mother's birthday would have been the 26th of January. I still remember it. Had a tough time doing that when she was alive, but now I remember it.
That's terrible.
Go figure. But she would have understood.
I'm not sure if Michael's ready to do the birthdays yet, but we had one that was sent in, and she's probably going to kill her mother because she sent us an adorable baby picture and a current photo. Carly Lane is 14 today, and happy birthday, Carly.
Happy birthday.
And be nice to your mom because that's the cutest picture ever.
She's saying, "Get me out of this dress."
Probably.
Where's those rompers that I can run around in?
Carly
very
is
nice. Thank you for that. Happy birthday. So, yeah, send them in. We can pop them up there.
Yeah, we can, at the very least, we can say happy birthday if we can't get pictures. And you're always putting yourself at risk when you send those pictures in, unless they're your own.
That before and after was cute.
It
or
was
before
adorable.
and present. And so I think what we're going to do, in the absence of calls, is we're going to take one more look at the Dr. Martin Luther King piece and remind everyone this is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's a national holiday, and it's a day of service. So one more time, I'll let you go through this, and when we come back, we'll have Scott Smith in here and talk about emergency management and whether or not Sherwood has the equipment it needs to deal with emergencies.
And if you have Martin Luther King Day activities that you want everyone to know about, send them to us and we'll announce them at the end of the show.
If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's a new definition of greatness. By giving that definition of greatness, it means that everybody can be great. Because everybody can serve.
Our country, this wonderful place, this little piece of real estate that we call America, was built, founded on service. We didn't necessarily wait for local, state, or the national government. We came together as a people, and we just did it.
I was one of 4 6-year-old children, girls, to integrate the public school system here in New Orleans in 1960. When I look at the Norman Rockwell painting and I see myself, I always say that the lesson I took away was a lesson that Dr. King tried to teach all of us, And that was that we should never look at a person and judge them by the color of their skin. I crossed a picket line, a mob every day for a whole year. There was a woman there to greet me. She did everything she could to make my day fun. She not only taught me, but she read stories to me. We played games. I knew that if I got past the mob and inside of the building, I was going to have a great day. And it was because of her. So she showed me her heart. And I began to realize that there was no way she was like the people outside. I couldn't judge her the same way. And so I believe at that moment, I learned the lesson that Dr. King died trying to teach us.
In 1957, when I was 17 years old, I wrote Martin Luther King Jr. a letter. Told him I wanted to attend a little college about 10 miles from my home, and this school didn't admit black students. He wrote me back and sent me a round-trip Greyhound bus ticket. I traveled to Montgomery and saw Dr. King standing behind a desk. He said to me, "Are you the boy from Troy? Are you John Lewis?" I was so scared I didn't know what to say or what to do. And I said, "Dr. King, I'm John Robert Lewis." He gave my whole name. He was so inspiring. He was so moving. And somehow, in some way, I wanted to become part of that movement. And I did.
For a long time, people fought to get the King holiday in, and it finally got achieved nearly 25 years ago. But it was sermons, talks, meetings, lunches, and one day I said to myself, "This is wrong. If Martin Luther King were here, he'd say, that's not what I want on my day." I teamed up with John Lewis in the House and many Republican and Democratic colleagues of mine in the Senate.
We felt that Martin Luther King Jr. was a man of service, and his day, that federal holiday, should be a day of service.
When the Congress passed the legislation, it was sort of like a reading wedding vows, that we were marrying a commitment to serve the common good and to let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. We lost a great soul. He took chances. He lived daringly. He didn't let the fear of harassment or persecution deter his mission. He stayed focused and committed. While he died at a young age, he lived a long life in terms of service and witness. He piled into those 39 years, 100 years or more of service and preaching and loving, caring.
My father said an individual has not started to live until he or she can rise above the narrow confines of his or her individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of humanity. He would certainly applaud the fact that our nation has set aside a day where we can become more other-centered rather than self-centered and really focus on the broader concerns of humanity, because that's really the person that he was and the way that he lived. Nothing's insignificant. As you're celebrating the King Day, remember you are important, you're significant, and you have something that you can offer to make humanity a better place.
We at the Corporation for National and Community Service are the federal agency that is so proud to be leading the Martin Luther King Day of service and volunteerism throughout the country. We are asking people on Martin Luther King Day to volunteer in their community. Ask a friend or family member or coworker, or find someone who may be lonely or feeling isolated, and ask them to join you and serve your neighborhood. We're asking people not just on Martin Luther King Day, but to volunteer throughout the year and help others and serve.
As Coretta Scott King proclaimed,
the greatest gift Martin could receive
is if people of all racial and ethnic backgrounds
celebrate the holiday
by performing individual acts of kindness
through service to others.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Morning Buzz with Tina and Dick, and Dow with Scott.
Good morning, Dick. How you doing?
Well, we're happy to see you here. I can tell you that right now.
Well, thank you. How you doing, Tina?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, emergency management. Tina mentioned an earlier event about the Swanee communications.
Yes,
Swanee. Is that improved yet?
It's slightly improved. We've got some temporary equipment in there to try to get them some communication. So that's working out quite well for us right now. We did have some technical difficulties the other day with interference. So the problem's not completely solved. And we're currently planning and doing a lot of work on a radio system that's going to upgrade the entire county, as well as primarily focused on getting to people in Sherwood some much needed paging and radio communications in place.
Yeah, that's Scott, excuse me. Monty Adams has spoke at length about the issues that they have, and
it's an ongoing problem. It's been several years. They've had the issue there. Technology, as everybody knows, is changing every day. So the technology today is going to allow us to eventually get this communication in that area. But prior to that, it wasn't feasible, let's say, to do it. So there's been a lot of work going on, and hopefully we'll get it done within the next year or so.
Well, that's good to hear. I know the folks out there are happy to hear you're working on that.
They've been waiting a long time for it.
They have.
They have.
So the warning, evacuation, and sheltering, that's sort of the broad brush that they paint emergency management activities with. So
that's true. That's true. A lot of people don't know the full scope of emergency management, and there are a lot of aspects to emergency management. A lot of people think emergency management it's I guess as the function or as an agency, but it's actually a function. It's the way that local government responds to disasters. I'm actually may as well say a point man for local government, the mayor and all the elected officials. I'm their representative or their lead man to get issues resolved, and that's what emergency management's really all about.
And you've got a number of boards that you work with. I don't want to say that you report to, but in some ways you do.
Well, I report. My job basically is I report directly to the mayor. I'm his representative for emergency management or emergency operations. So therein lies I have to do a lot of boards and go to a lot of meetings and be involved because I'm his spokesperson basically.
And so you're busy even when there's not an emergency. People think you just get busy at the time, but
actually
all the time.
The guys who are really busy during an emergency are what we call first responders. They're the people who are directly affecting the people. Those are emergency service personnel, your ambulance crews, your police, your firemen. Emergency management's job is prior to an event. Like I said, we're planning, we're working, we're trying to get the sheriff's department, the fire departments, all those folks together on the same page, get their equipment ready to go, make sure that all those things are in place prior to. That's when my work is. During a disaster, an emergency management director is not the person who's going to come out there and save your life. That is going to be an EMS person, a sheriff's department guy, or a volunteer fireman, and those guys are crucial in those aspects. I'm just more of an administrator or a person that, like I say, is doing the work prior to. After a disaster, there are things for an administrator to do as well. But, the real heroes for emergency management or emergency response are those first responders. Those are the guys who are actually out there in the field.
Well, we appreciate that, and we appreciate all of those folks who put their life on the line every day to protect ours. But, you know, don't sell yourself short. If those plans weren't in place,
Well, if the
we
plans
might be
weren't in
running
place-
willy-nilly around figuring this out.
And we do have some response, but like I say, primarily, as I've taken office, and I spent 20 years as chief of the rescue squad, I still have the management oversight of this organization. It's a volunteer organization. So that puts me out in the field as well. But for every emergency management department, there's a different organizational level for it. Nashville Metro has a huge emergency management operation, and its operations are, you know, vastly different, of course, than the one in Franklin County or any of the smaller counties. But for every emergency management department, I guess everybody has a different responsibility.
We talk about we're ready for anything. But number one on our list has to be kind of weather.
Weather is one of the number one risks that the county has as a planner. That's one of the main ones. There's also man-made hazards as well. But weather, I think, scares more folks. It's an act of God. So there's no really. It's a difficult thing to plan for. You can't plan for those things, but you can plan for the result, and that's what you have to try to plan for is the result.
And how is planning for, you mentioned the Nashville metro area, how is planning for a city that's very condensed like that compared to our rural area, how is that different?
Well, they all have different events. I mean, if you look at Nashville, and I was talking to the emergency management operations director for Metro about a month ago, and the budget for events for them is larger than our whole sheriff's department budget.
Oh, wow.
That's just for events.
So you're talking about outdoor music festivals?
Outdoor music festivals, the Titans ball games, all those things, they dwarf our entire budget. Of course, they have a tax base that dwarfs our entire tax base. But those are the type things that are so much different in those areas than we have. But they still have the same weather, hazardous materials incidents, but they're more prone to them, and they have, you know, of course, a lot larger scale. So their agencies and their planning's, you know, on a different level than ours.
So back to the weather and preparing for these disasters. Actually, this doesn't have to be limited to the weather, but as a homeowner, I live in Decherd. I've got a wife and 2 cats now and a dog. So how do I prepare for an emergency in my house?
Well, you've got to, first off, recognize that you need to prepare. And a lot of people, you know, think that emergency management's going to take care of them or the federal government's going to come in and do the job. They're not. The first few days of any disaster, you got to be prepared on your own. And the federal government, even FEMA, they even suggest a 3-day food supply, 3-day water supply. So it takes, you know, that long before they're even going to get to your area to start to help you. So self-reliance is a big thing. What we call in the rescue business is called self-rescue. You always, when you go fishing, when you go hiking, when you go hunting, you always should have a plan. You should always tell folks, you know, where you're going, you know, have a plan in place to try to help rescue yourself, because that's the quickest and most efficient way, you know, if you get in trouble, is to try to prevent it and rescue yourself. Same thing in the home business. You know, as a homeowner, you need to pre-plan for these storms. If you know that you're in a vulnerable area, you know, maybe you need to look into purchasing a storm shelter, getting something of that nature to put in place. If your structure, if you have a mobile home, if you notice or get a weather radio first, but when weather events occur, you need to possibly look into going to your mother-in-law's house. Unfortunately, that's the case. But if you live in a tornado-prone area in, say, a mobile home, you may need to look into maybe being able to go sleep somewhere else for that evening if we have tornado warnings out. Those type of things. You know, pre-plan, use common sense and think about it.
Does Franklin County have an emergency shelter that we could go to?
Technically, no. We don't really have an emergency storm shelter built. I've been interviewing a lot of counties. Most counties don't have a storm shelter built. We've checked into doing some grants for maybe some local storm shelters. That's still in the process. We've historically, the EOC area, if someone is in dire need of shelter, if I'm in the EOC, I will let them come, to the shelter. But we don't really have an official shelter built. That's a difficult proposition. These times of economic times that we've had in the past, shelters are very expensive. So it's difficult to get the money set aside to build that type of facility and maintenance because, like I say, it's not an event that occurs every day.
It's a lot of people to try to.
Right. How can we shelter if you needed it? It's an open-ended question. How many people are going to come? Typically, currently, we only have about 6 to 8 folks typically show up to a shelter event at the EOC. So, and as well, it's a long way from home for most folks.
Yeah.
So they probably don't really. It's inconvenient for them to go.
And maybe unsafe.
It may be unsafe to be on the road for sure. If there's a storm imminently coming, they probably need a shelter in place.
And so you should plan for this to make sure you have, if you live in a mobile home, as you said, that you have someone you can go.
That's for a storm event. You should probably look into, like I say, unfortunately, going to the mother-in-law's house, but that's the price you pay for safety. I'm just joking about that. I love my mother-in-law.
I mean, this is no different than putting smoke detectors in your home.
No different at all. Smoke detectors, and that's a whole other subject we can discuss on. The holiday season has been horrible this year with incidents of fatalities and deaths over in homes. And it generally is when cold weather hits. Unfortunately, it's right around the holiday period. There's a lot of folks with bringing a lot of items into the home, and they're all could be fire hazards. The Christmas tree, it's a fire hazard. It's combustible. So that's a whole other subject we could get into if we had time. But, smoke detectors are critical in homes.
Well, I didn't mean to take us away from the weather, because I have another question on that. How many sirens do we have in the different communities in Franklin County?
Currently we have 0 sirens. I signed a grant form for Estill Springs. They're attempting to get tornado sirens. Sirens are great tools, but in an area such as Winchester or Estill Springs or Cowan, you have a core of population around town. Now, outside of that, the sirens are totally ineffective. So the higher the population density is, the more effective a siren can be. Now, at night, in a modern home, because we don't have our windows open anymore in the summer, not anymore, it's difficult to hear that siren. But when you're outside during the day or, doing business, when those sirens go off, they work great. The primary focus that people should have, especially at night, and that's when storms come to our area, unfortunately, is at night, is a NOAA weather radio. That's probably still, after all the technology advancements we've made, that's probably one of the best notification systems we still have, is that NOAA weather radio. And
that is available on your cell phone as an app as well, isn't it?
Well, that's a whole nother, as we speak, technology base. The NOAA weather radio, we'll briefly discuss those. You can go to Walmart and get this thing and get it pre-programmed to where in your county, if there's a tornado warning, a thunderstorm warning, anything the National Weather Service puts out, it will put out an alert. And that alert will wake you up from a sleep. And it won't go off with anything else but what the National Weather Service sends out. So when you hear that alert, you know that you need to be weather aware. That's one of the big advantages to the NOAA system. Now, cell phones. Let me say this cell phone. Everybody, this thing is a game changer, the cell phone, the smartphone. It's huge in technology. There are as many, it's an untold amount of different apps that you can get for weather, alerts, and there's also some government ones that I'd like to discuss for the iPods and the emergency with wireless emergency system. There's some great advancements made in that. So the cell phone is a huge tool when you're out during the day doing your normal business activities and want to keep weather aware. That's done a lot to save lives. It's untold.
So people should sign up for a weather alert service.
If they have a smartphone or a regular phone that texts, you can sign up for several different apps. Now, a lot of them are free. WeatherBug's one of my favorite ones. It comes on, It will give me weather alerts, radar, AccuWeather comes on a lot of people's cell phones. Use those tools. You can stay weather alert all day. You have radar. I've noticed since I've been using for several years, they're starting to get the storm trackers involved in their software. All these things are starting to continually improve. So the free apps first are great. There's Tennessee has an app. It's called ReadyTN. You can go online and download it on the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. It's a great little tool. Now, they'll all tell you they're not as good as the normal weather radio, but ReadyTN has got weather alerts, but you have to log on to it. But it'll give you all the weather alerts in the state of Tennessee, so you can track weather. You can also, which is really nice with it, everyone's seen the T-Dot help trucks on the interstate. Well, these guys are all interconnected on the web now, and all those cameras are interconnected on the web. So if they call for a T-Dot help truck on I-24, they put in a report. Well, on your smartphone, on your app, you'll get that. And you'll see that the T-Dot help truck is out in that area, and they have a traffic slowdown. So if you're planning on going anywhere in the state, you can go on that website, look for a traffic analysis on it. It's got a map, and it will show you, and I was looking at it last night, there was some ice and some slick spots in West Tennessee. So if I was planning on going out to Dyersburg or Memphis, I would have knew that there's some state highways there that reported slick road conditions. So for yourself, it's a really nice tool to use. It's one of the better ones. There, locally, while we're talking about phone apps, there's a program called HyperReach. Now that was an app that was purchased, and it's an app, but it's a paid subscription from the county's point. Now the users, it's free to everybody. HyperReach is a free service, and what it allowed us to do is 911, the 911 board purchased this to put out notifications and alerts, but it allows the 911 system here in Franklin County to access the emergency alert system. So we can do it locally. Used to, I know Dick, you're as old as I am. Back in the day, you had the emergency alert system test on Saturday morning with the cartoons. You had the siren and the lines on the TV. You remember all that? That system is still in place today, but technology has morphed it. And now it's coming out over your cell phone and in different avenues. And they still do it on the television, the emergency alert system, and put the ribbon across the bottom and tell you the emergencies that are in the area. National Weather Service can access it. But in our area, Franklin County can now access it through the HyperReach program. And they can put out, and there's criteria, but they can put out road closures, school closures, all of those type of things.
And is that being actively used already?
Yes. Now, you have to sign up for it.
Okay.
Now, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on technicalities, but the state government and the federal government and the National Weather Service can use the wireless emergency alert system, and they're currently doing it. And as technology has evolved, and some people in the last storm event actually got some text from them, and there will be a siren alert go off, and you'll have a voice and a text message that may say extreme emergency, a weather emergency. They'll describe the type of emergency, whether it's a tornado, and typically they do it when there's a tornado on the ground. If they get confirmation for sure, that area will get that notification. Now, technology has allowed them to actually ID the area that's, I guess, being affected. Okay. So if you live on the eastern end of the county, you may not have got the text because they can pick which cell phone towers to send that signal out from. So it specifically puts that warning into the people that need to hear it.
Right.
And the people that don't need to hear it, they don't bother their cell phone.
Technology is amazing.
And two questions for you. One is, to receive these warnings, do you need to turn your locator on your cell phone?
No. The way I get in the weeds and the technical parts of it, it broadcasts from that tower site. Say Maple Bend area out in Broadview, it broadcasts from there, and it reaches every cell phone within that area.
That's got the alert system.
Right. They have, and the HyperReach can do it. And when we talk about our system, we can go on a map and draw a box. And it will call every home, if you're registered, as well as activate that cell phone tower in that location to notify everyone in that zone of an incident. It could be a hazardous material incident. we could deem it as a lost child. Now, I don't think they want us to use it for lost pets and different things of that nature. They have criteria for it, so they won't be bugging people unnecessarily.
Right.
But it is zoned for the incident. Or you can do it countywide. You can hit a button and hit countywide, and it'll do it on every cell phone tower that covers our county.
Well, you mentioned if people are signed up for it, they'll get it. Do we register with the Franklin County EMA?
Let me go over how to exactly. We're reading glasses on here. Now, HyperReach program, to sign up for it. Now, our 911 system has a web page, not a web page, excuse me, but Facebook. I'm not teched into the Facebook thing, but they have a Facebook page, and it's Franklin County Consolidated Communications.
We will make sure that you get all of this information. We'll put it all on our page
Okay, you
so
can put it
that
on your
people
page
can
to sign up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's Franklin County Consolidated 911 Dispatch. That's their Facebook page, and you can go on their Facebook page, and they have a link to the registration for the HyperReach. Or you can go to hyperreach.com/TN Franklin sign up.
Okay.
And you can go directly to their website and sign up. But the easiest way to do it is off of the Facebook page for 911. But you'll go to that. They will have a very brief form to fill out, your phone number, your location, so that it will know exactly where your home location is. You can put your cell phone in it. You can put your home phone in it. With our system, you can put in email. So you can get an email. So you can be working at your desk and get those emergency alerts through our system.
Now, and we try very hard on our Facebook page to keep people informed with the weather and even with traffic for folks who are traveling to Nashville for work in Chattanooga, and actually use the NOAA. I get the alerts from them before I do AccuWeather or anyone else. So,
great. That's the thing is our system, and I don't want to say that should be your primary system, because we're a middleman. And anytime, and anybody knows, you take the middleman out of something and get it directly from the source, you're better off. So, like I say, getting things directly from NOAA, getting the weather radios, that's the quickest way. Now, we're going to back that up, and there's going to be some, notifications put out, but there's a middleman in the process. And the quicker you can get your information, the more safe you are, the quicker you can make your decisions that, on what you need to do shelter-wise and those type of things. So that's what we prefer, is directly NOAA, and then of course the HyperReach can be used for anything other than weather itself. Like I said, it could be a tanker truck overspill. We need to evacuate an area. We have a missing child. Any of those type of things. School closures could be a great thing that they put out over it. But it's for the general public to sign up for and use, and hopefully that program will grow. Right now, I don't know the exact numbers because I don't manage that program, but as more and more people sign up, they'll get more involved with it. It's a great tool. I'd like to thank the 911 board for purchasing it. It's a good thing to have for the folks.
Well, I think this is probably one of many resources available to our community that we just are not aware of.
There are a lot of resources out there, and like I say, you just have to work on it and get all the different aspects together, and like I say, it's hard to keep up with technology. It really is. But there's so many neat things that we didn't used to have. I had talked to the Weather Service about a lot of these things, and I'm new to the office, and I was trying to get some details about their parameters of their notifications, and the emergency alert system or your cell phone will only be alerted for tornado warnings, not watches or anything. It's got to be a direct emergency. Flash floods and tornadoes is all that you'll be notified with under their system. They don't want to cry wolf too much. They don't want to aggravate people with the phone going off and on. If you hear that siren go off on your phone, you rest assured that it's an emergency. It's not something that they've just sent out.
That's good to know.
Yes.
If you hear it, it's an emergency.
So so the weather is the big danger. We have a lot of railroads running through here.
Hazardous material, that's a man-made disaster. That's something else that we've got to look at too as well.
How actively do we look at that?
Well, everybody's aware of it. Almost every city in the county has a railroad going through it. Winchester Square fortunately doesn't, but one goes through Estill, one passes through Decherd, and one passes through Cowan. And then it crosses over the mountain and goes into the Sherwood area, which we've already discussed some of the issues in the Sherwood area. Yeah. That's one of the most, if you want to talk about railroad incidents, the Sherwood area is the most prone. It has a historical precedent for having train wrecks. And hopefully we'll get our communication solved there. But
that'll let everybody breathe a sigh of relief.
Sigh of relief over there, for especially for the responders and the folks that live there. You know.
Is there a reason why they have more train accidents there?
Because they're coming off the mountain. They come up. You know, they get pushed up the mountain, and then as they come off the mountain, of course,
gravity
takes over, and those trains weigh a ton. You know, and when they come off that mountain, if there's any weak spot in that track, that train will find it.
What about, do we get a bill of lading on each train that comes through here, and what chemicals they're carrying?
Well, they carry it. We don't actually get it. They don't send it to us prior to it. You know, these trains, and they have a great safety record. It's not like they have an accident every day in our county, but they carry that on board the train. And once an incident occurs, you go to the conductor, the engineer, he'll have that bill of lading. As technology has gotten better, it's actually electronic now too. So they have that bill. You can tell the trains are so technical now. It's my understanding that they have a dispatch center in Jacksonville, Florida. All the trains are interconnected by satellite. If part of that train falls off and wrecks, in just a few seconds, they can tell how intact that train is and what cars were involved. Now, there are some instances where they can't, but their system's set up to be that technical that they can tell that they've lost communication with a section of that train.
Yeah.
So they can tell.
So then the other hazardous material that travels through the county comes by way of truck.
Oh, yes. We got our new connector road, and it's, I give a little demonstration the other day, our class, and I was showing vehicle wrecks. And unfortunately, I showed one that was on a 4-lane highway, and it was huge. And it basically would have been a disaster in Franklin County because of our limited resource we have for that. But with our 4-lane, we now have a lot of trucks and tractor trailers and industrial. As our area grows industrially, we have more and more chemicals, more and more industrial products that come in and out of our county. So the incident for that could be increasing as well. Currently, our county, we have a Homeland Security District, and the closest, hazardous material response team is in Coffee County. So that's not too far for us. That's just right down the street. And in all actuality, it's probably better if we had a huge incident in the county. They're coming from outside the county to us, so they wouldn't be affected at all in their response. There could be some situations here where we get a tractor trailer or an incident that may occur at Tractor Supply. Well, we've cut off all the major thoroughfares in Franklin County at that point. So our resource will be coming in from Tullahoma, so they wouldn't be impeded by that. So that's a good thing in a lot of cases to have them staged outside our area.
And they are just right outside.
And they're just technically they're within quarter mile of our county line anyway at the fire station. So it's a good thing.
So those kinds of accidents are involving hazardous materials by a truck. That comes to you by telephone, state police, local police?
Once again, how the thing works here in the county is those first responders are the first guys that's going to deal with that. Now, they need to be properly aware and trained of dealing with a hazardous material incident, but they're going to call into the dispatch center. Now, how I would be notified would be through them. The dispatch center would call me and say, "Hey, Scott, we've got a hazardous material incident. The fire department needs your assistance," because they're the ones who are going to be in charge of this incident. So I would come out to assist them. And basically what I would be doing was contacting the hazardous material team if they haven't done it already, which they have the authority to do that. They can call those guys over there and tell them we need you coming. But I would deal with the state assets as well. If there's anything dealing with state, with TEMA, and if it had to kick up to FEMA, then I would take care of those things as well. So that would be my role, is getting the logistics in there, getting them the expertise that they needed to deal with this situation.
Well, if before we get out of here, and we're not finished yet, but what do you want to leave our viewers with in terms of how should they relate to you to so that their safety is best?
Well, if they need any kind of resource or have any questions, that's part of my function is to, I guess, I might not be the expert at it, but I can direct them to where they need to go, whether it's talk to a fire chief, talk to the sheriff's department, police officer about security, those type of things. I can get with them and help them with that. I can give them some brochures on planning for disasters or home planning, get your 3 days food supply, your 3-day water, those type of things. Any kind of questions, I can try to direct them to any agency or anything, they would need to try to answer their question.
And should we develop a plan to, let's say let's say we had a train wreck and there's gases everywhere and you want me out of town. Should I have a route for my house to out of town?
Well, situational awareness is always important. Now, you hear about a lot of routes. I don't know how many people ever been to any areas that are prone to tsunamis, but you'll see tsunami signs up. Well, we have something similar to that here as well. They're called Watts Bar and some of the nuclear facilities. And if you kind of pay attention sometimes, you get close to those areas, you'll see actual evacuation signs for those areas for a nuclear emergency. Now, should you develop that evacuation plan at home? It wouldn't hurt to think about it. Come up with an all-purpose disaster plan. One of the big things is communication nowadays, and I like to emphasize, in your disaster plan, come up with a procedure for your family. It's just like having a fire. You have a tree that you would go out to. You would go to a location. Well, today with the things that happen, it could be a terrorist event. Hopefully, thank God, Franklin County is a safe environment. But any large event, if your family gets separated, cell phones sometimes don't work, unfortunately. That's why we go to the primary normal weather radio, because cell phones, during an event, the public's side of the cell phone system collapses because everybody's calling on it. So you may not be able to get a hold of your family. So you may want to say, hey, look, if we get separated for over so many hours or there's a huge event, go to mom's house if you can go, and we'll meet there. Have just a little discussion. What are we going to do if a tornado hits and our house gets knocked and I can't contact you? To make sure you're safe, who are you going to contact? Have a third party, an uncle that may live in Tullahoma. If you can try to contact them and let your family know, have contact points, a web, so to speak, of contacts, so that your family will know, because you may not be able to contact them directly, and that surely helps, anxiety and how people feel. And
you mentioned my age a little while ago. Thank you for that. But I am reminded that the last time my family and I prepared for an emergency was a nuclear attack from Russia back in the 60s.
Exactly. That's where emergency management actually came from. A lot of people ask about, what is emergency management? It came from the civil defense days. Like I say, I ran the rescue squad for years. A lot of the old timers still called us civil defense. Civil defense,
But we made our plans to all meet at the Brooks Range in Alaska. In the event of a nuclear attack, we would go on foot and head for that location.
Exactly. A lot of those same principles which guides us today that were developed back in the old days, the duck and cover days for us old guys, But those same things are still relevant today.
And with the severity of the weather, it seems to be increasing. These tornado warnings may make duck and run appropriate for today.
Oh yes, like I say, it's still pertinent for today. The same principles and the same aspects. It's all the same. I guess staying safe never changes. You mentioned more and more storms being prevalent. We don't know if they're more and more prevalent, but technology. It's the same with incidents, disasters. If there's a disaster in Taiwan, we will know about it within a matter of minutes.
Yeah. And before you used to not find out until weeks
months
later.
If you ever heard of it, I'm sure there have been thousands and thousands of people killed in disasters that we never knew about.
Well, and you bring up technology, and we're always telling people, we look for citizen journalism. We want folks to help us cover this county, but we also want them to be safe. So if there is a train derailment or a tanker that's overturned, think of your safety first and remember that there may be chemicals and things so that you can't see or smell.
Exactly. You know, you see that prevalent a lot, people taking the selfies and the videos. You can get yourself killed doing that. The first thing you need to think about is getting yourself to a safe area. I have a daughter in college, you know, and she's always worried about her safety. And I said, do you have tennis shoes? She said, well, yeah. I said, that's your most important safety feature is a pair of tennis shoes so that you can run from danger. You know, that's one of the, you know, keep yourself to a safe area. If you want to take a video, you can take it from a safe distance. Yeah. But you see a lot of that happening. People, things are happening, crimes happen, different things happen. And I guess the mentality of kids today, they want to take a video of it instead of, you know, getting to a spot of safety.
And sometimes that hinders your job as well if people are in the way.
Gawkers, especially on traffic accidents, people need to slow down. They need to obey that move over law. There was recently a guy from the T-Dot help truck was hit trying to change the tire for some folks.
I know.
And that's horrible. You know, people just need to slow down, you know, pay attention to what they're doing, move over, and don't gawk. How many people have been from here to Chattanooga on the interstate and seen a minor accident and traffic back for miles? There's no excuse for it. You know why? On the opposite lane. Because people are gawking. They're slowing it. They're looking over to see, you know, what's happening, and they're back there traffic
good
for
luck
miles.
Good luck on curing any of that.
I don't think I will, but, you know, that kind of, you know, that kills me trying to get out of Chattanooga, and the wreck's not even on my side of the road, and I'm stuck for an hour in traffic. It's horrible.
Well, Scott, thank you very much for coming by on this holiday, on your day off.
Well, you
appreciate that. Appreciate all you've told us, and I hope you'll be a frequent guest here on
Anytime you
Morning
need me,
Buzz.
or you got any questions, you know, I'd be glad to come in and try to answer them anyway.
And please let us know when you have new resources like this available, and we'll do our best to get that out to folks.
And bringing up the weather before we close, I'd like to announce that I've got a weather spotter class, and it's going to be on February the 28th at 6:30 at the Rescue Squad's classroom at the Annex Building. And the Todd Barron from the National Weather Service will be up here, and he's going to give a class on spotting weather and looking for severe storms. Anybody who likes to take videos or likes to be weather aware, it would be a good thing to come to this course. It's a general overview, a few hours long. He'll discuss cloud formations and all those different aspects, and they'll sign you up to be weather aware in their program. And if you see something, you can call the Weather Service, and they will actually give you credit for your observations. If not, you can see if you don't go through the training, they're a little bit less, I guess, not receptive, but once you make an announcement, they know that you're a credible witness because you've been through the training, so it counts.
And what time is that meeting again?
It's going to be 6:30.
On the 28th.
On the 28th.
All right. Well, I thank you very much. I think Michael has got a little video from the Decherd meeting that explains why the Decherd Board of Aldermen and the mayor are going back to school. I believe that's the clip we have.
Next three things are just on the agenda. Starting next year, they've already required the water boards and school boards in Tennessee. The school boards for several years have had me go into school every year. They're starting that next year for the mayor, board of aldermen. I'm going to one in into this month up in wherever rural Luttrell, Tennessee is for mayors. There is going to be one for aldermen, and that's not in Mont Eagle. Hannah Rogers that met with us, our TML lawyer. There's going to be one in Collegedale on February 10th and 11th, these dates. If y'all are interested in going, I've got the information. The city would pay for the course for you to take it. It's very informative. Next year, the way the legislature's looking, they're going to start requiring, it's kind of like a continued ed class teachers have to do. So anybody wants to, that's just basically for your information. I noticed I imagine y'all's will be similar to mine, but it's structures of government, financial, municipal financial overview, the council at work, things about the charter and codes and stuff. So if you have any desire want to go to that, let me know. I'll get you the application to fill out, and of course Tammy can pay for your tuition on the continuing ed and all.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Morning Buzz with Tina and Dick, and now with Michael. Michael Bradley, good morning. Good to see you here today.
I'm good, thank you. Welcome.
Glad to see you.
And I gather his audio's okay, is it, Michael?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I need to put this in. And so, Dr. Bradley, you're a doctor.
Yes. One of the smart ones, not one of the rich ones.
You are here to talk. You wear several hats. Among them, you're the pastor at the Decherd Presbyterian Church.
Correct, yes.
And a fine fellow, if I do say so myself. But you're starting a new program called Authors Night. So why don't you tell us about that?
Well, Dick and Tina, Middle Tennessee is awash with authors. Some of them have become well-known, internationally famous, and others are known only locally. But these are not people who have simply scribbled something down and then paid somebody to print it for them. These are people who have been successful enough that they have contacted a commercial publisher. The publisher says, yes, this is good stuff. We'll put it out there, and then we'll pay you percentage of the sales, the royalties. So we think at Decherd Presbyterian that these people deserve to be a little better known. And we want to do our part to help them do that. So we're starting a program called Meet the Author. Once a quarter, we will have a local author invited to come and just talk about their book. Then they can answer any questions from the audience, and if people want to buy a book, then they'll get it signed by the author. No obligation on anybody's part to buy a book, certainly no admission, just come and listen to a local author. And we hope this will stimulate interest in reading local authors and stimulate local authors to write more books to be read.
Absolutely. And literacy is always a wonderful thing to promote.
Exactly.
I gather this is for the public as well, so we probably need to tell everybody where Decherd Presbyterian is.
Decherd Presbyterian is at 4th and Broad in Decherd. Turn on State Route 50 East and watch for 4th going left. You go one block and the church is on the corner of 4th and Broad. And we'll be meeting in the parish hall, which most people would call the dining room or the fellowship hall. And we'll just have a good time talking to a local author.
And your first guest?
Our first one is on the 23rd of January at 7 o'clock. His name is R.D. Sherrill. He writes under the name of Dwayne Sherrill. He is a crime and court reporter for the Southern Standard newspaper in McMinnville. And not surprisingly, he writes crime and mystery novels. He's written such things as The Red Dog Saloon. That was his first.
Right.
And if you've been around McMinnville very long, you would know about The Red Dog Saloon. This
and
is
recognize some of the characters in the books as well.
And recognize the characters as well. Thinly disguised to protect the innocent, but not too much protection. But that one was quite successful. Average Joe was another of his. Murder U, as in university. Then he has a series that he started using a team of detectives, Jack and Ashley, and that's called Friday Night Lights, and his second volume of that is Paradise Ranch. These are sold widely by all number of bookstores and other outlets, but if you will look on Amazon, which I hate to mention in connection with bookstores because they tend to submerge local bookstores.
Yes.
Most of his books get 90% 5-star reviews, and that's an excellent recommendation for any writer.
And I've read a couple of his books. I actually worked with Dwayne at the Southern Standard for a short time, and he's a character all to himself, so your audience will enjoy him when he comes to speak.
He likes to say about his books, they're all thriller and no filler.
And that's probably true. There's not a lot of fluff in there.
Not a lot of fluff, and it's very action-packed, straightforward, but always a little hook, a little twist.
We know that comes from his journalism training, the no fluff.
No doubt. So get the 5 basics and move on with the program. Yeah. Too bad more ministers don't take that sort of program.
I don't know. I come to sort of hear you talk.
But not fluff.
But no, I don't see it.
And incidentally, if you don't like mystery writers, wait till the next one in April. We'll have somebody who's humorous. And then in July, we have a fellow named Niles Reddick who used to teach at Montlow College. So he'll have a number of former students in this area. Niles now is at Lambeth, which is a branch of the University of Memphis over in Jackson. But he writes about his family and growing up in South Georgia. And Niles is another very entertaining writer. So we'll have all sorts of people. We'll have a wide variety of writers. So if you don't like this one, we've got lots more coming down the road.
And so these are coming every 3 months?
Once a quarter, first on the fourth Monday night of each quarter, but the first one, January the 23rd, and we'll announce the second one at that time, be in April, obviously.
And if there are authors who are listening to us that want to get in touch with you.
Love to hear from them, love to hear from them. And you can just write the church at Post Office Box 266, Decherd.
Okay, we'll get that information out to you all.
Very good indeed.
Yeah, if Michael can read my writing, we will.
Well, we'll get back with you if we're lost on
anything. So you mentioned there's a lot of authors, and we're only going to hit them quarterly. So you've got years and years ahead of you.
Oh, we've got a long time lined up out front.
Any chance that it might be monthly?
Well, we want to see how it goes first, and certainly we'd like to build on success. Okay. So if we find it successful, then yes, we could go more frequently. There's some little church up at Normandy, Tennessee, that has a monthly music night, and that's proved to be very successful. Anybody who plays any instrument just shows up, and you can jam with everybody else, or you can play a couple of solo pieces, and you just sit and pick and sing till you're ready to go home, then you go home.
That's the old-fashioned way to make music.
So we can certainly do authors the same way. We just have it monthly and talk as long as you want to, but we're planning on it being about an hour. And if you want to stay and talk longer, I've never known an author who ran out of words.
And what time is that?
7 o'clock.
7 p.m.
Monday the 23rd.
Okay.
Well, we always want to support our local artists of all sorts, musicians, writers, painters, whatever they are. So the program at Normandy and now at Decherd Church will be great outlets for those creative people.
We certainly hope so. We'd like to have poets and other sorts of writers.
Well, we know a poet, don't we?
Good poet.
We wish you success on this Writers' Night. Now, you taught history for years at Motlow.
36 years.
36 years. And so are you a writer as well?
Yeah, I confess to committing the sin of authorship. Yeah.
Yes, okay. And would you talk about your book?
Well, of course, in teaching as well as in being the pastor at church. I've done that incidentally the whole time that I was teaching. I've been at small churches since 1968 on the weekends. My format is usually to tell stories because people remember stories. They like stories. They remember stories. So I've always told stories. And in the 1990s, one of my students said, I wish you would write that down. I'd like to be able to access that story again. So I said, well, why not? So I started writing down stories that my great-grandfather had told me. I come from a line of people who live a long time. My great-grandfather was 90 years old when I was born and lived across the road from me. He lived to be 102, so I listened to him for the first 12 years of my life. He was born in 1850, so he had stories to tell.
Oh, my gosh.
His wife was somewhat younger by a year or two. Miss Emma was from the South and never said how old she was.
No. A true lady.
True lady, of old school. But I wrote down those stories, and they proved to be popular. So I said, well, history is full of other good stories, so let's write some of them. And that led not only into writing stories, but also into writing down more professionally oriented historical research. So I've been able to put out a number of books that are all history themed, but cover mostly the Civil War Reconstruction period, although the last one dealt with the Great Smoky Mountains. So it's a lot of fun, and my wife says it keeps her from hanging out down at the pool room.
Okay.
So
pool.
Yeah, so she thinks that's a good thing. It keeps me out of trouble. So.
Where can we get your books?
Well, they're carried by several outlets. The Civil War histories you'll find at most of the Civil War parks, which all have bookstores. Stones River, Chickamauga has them. Some of the local outlets carry them, although that's up to the publisher. That's the way they get their money back, is to make sure they get peddled. That ubiquitous order online Amazon folks, they certainly have them. And if you really want one signed at no extra charge, you might contact me.
Or come to the author's night.
Or come to the, not this time though. That'll be just Wayne Sherrill's books.
Right. So, but you have to have your own author's night, right?
Well, eventually we'll get around to that, yeah. So someday in the foreseeable future, I will hold forth wearing a different hat, Dick.
Well, and I want to talk about your Civil War era writings. You are an acknowledged expert on the Civil War in these parts, are you not? Don't be modest.
A lot of people think so, and I've certainly done a lot of work on so I do know a good bit about the local area and the people who are significant in this local area.
And then were you involved at all in the restoration of the Confederate cemetery down here on 6th Avenue?
6th Avenue, yes, I was.
I thought so.
Yeah. There was a good deal of historical research went into that because at that cemetery there was a large marker that lists every veteran every Civil War veteran from Franklin County. Not just list them, but what happened to them. Whether they were wounded, captured, killed in action, or if it says nothing, that means they survived the war. Which is a marvelous historical record for any small town to have.
That's a nice little park. I mean, when they redid it, this was the Sons of the Confederacy?
Sons of Confederate Veterans.
Yes, exactly. They turned that into, I think they had Harvey Templeton support.
Donated the land.
Yeah, donated the land for that. And it's right next to his giant ginkgo tree.
Which will live 800 years if you don't bother.
Yeah, Harvey made sure that we all understood that.
There's an enormous marker to remind us of that, and he's probably right.
But and I'm leading up to deliberately. I want to get into culture. You talked about culture earlier and our Southern culture, and most notably, we've had some issues in the past with the Confederate battle flag.
Yes, we have.
And I know you have spoken at length on that. So what? You won't call it wisdom, but I will. But what kind of wisdom can you lay out on the culture of the South and the struggle with the Confederate flag?
Sure. The meaning of any symbol is in the eye of the beholder. So if a person looks at the Confederate battle flag and sees a symbol of prejudice and hate, that's what they see, and I cannot argue with that because that's what they see. If I look at it and see a reminder of my family and an attempt they made to establish an independent nation for whatever reason that might have been in their minds, if that's a reminder to me of my family, then that's what I see. And nobody can argue with that because that's what I see. Therefore, we are always going to have a debate, hopefully not a squabble, but a debate over the meaning of symbols, which is quite normal and natural and even healthy. We should talk about those things. However, I would point out that certainly this symbol, like others, has been abused. It has been co-opted by groups that have misused the flag to symbolize things that it did not originally, or in the minds of many people like myself, stand for. It has nothing to do with that. That's unfortunate but unavoidable because you cannot copyright a symbol. You cannot keep somebody else from using it. It's in the public domain. I find it ironic, however, that we choose this symbol to focus on and not other symbols. For instance, the Ku Klux Klan uses the word Titan to describe one of their officers. Well, does anybody think Ku Klux Klan when they go to Nashville to root for the football team?
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
No,
of course
probably not.
Well, because we have a different connotation for that symbol. If I see somebody walking down the street with a cross around their neck, I don't think, is that a Ku Klux member because they use crosses? I think, well, that person has some religious orientation, although the Klan obviously has abused the symbol of the cross. Oddly enough, if you today go to any of the 24 or so websites that are sponsored by one of the many, many branches that call themselves Ku Klux Klan, and there is no the Ku Klux Klan, there are clans, plural with an S, you will find that they unanimously display the flag of the United States and a flag that's their own design. So, you know, I say, of course this has been abused, of course that's wrong, but if we're really going to be a nation based on tolerance, inclusiveness, and diversity, we have to say, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to me? And be willing to say, well, that's not the way I see it, but if you do, okay.
Yeah,
we can
gotta
deal with
respect
that. We can respect that. Yeah.
This is why I wanted you to talk about it, because a lot of people get passionate and they want to get their dander up.
Well, of course, and they do.
You're
get their
taking
dander
our
up.
flag away,
or our history away,
our history, our culture.
Yeah.
And it's not the only cultural issue that we have here.
Of
We're
course
also
not.
disagreeing with the Supreme Court on some
Of
issues.
course.
And I think these are the things we must talk about.
Of course, because if we don't, like any other infection, it festers and becomes worse. So you what's the medical term? You not drain the wound, but you open it and allow it to evacuate.
Lance it.
You lance the boil.
Lance the boil.
But if when we have these discussions, if we can, as Michael suggested, remember that it's all about perception.
Sure.
So your upbringing and how you perceive everything is what shapes your view of the world. And that's different for every single person. So, and it's hard when we get our dander up and we get passionate about things to remember that, maybe this person isn't trying to be derogatory toward us. They just don't agree. And, for goodness sakes, I don't agree with most everything with everyone else. So if I were going to be upset, yes, we have those arguments in our head.
we have a few minutes left. If you'd like to talk with Dr. Bradley or Michael, give us a call at 615-962-3345. I bet you a nickel he can answer most of your questions.
If I can, I'll make up something.
Well, there you go. We have an honest man behind the podium here.
I'll make up a quick story. I'll tell you a quick story that's true. Up at Beech Grove, as you're driving into Nashville, as you start, there's a little cemetery on the right called Beech Grove Confederate Cemetery.
Stop there all the time.
64 unknown Confederates buried there who died in battle there. But there's one Revolutionary War veteran buried in that same row. His name is Oath, E-O-F-F, which is a familiar name around Tullahoma because the Oaths were associated with First National Bank in Tullahoma many years. The Oaths owned property up at Beech Grove. This was in the 19th century. They moved down to Tullahoma, and they were afraid that the ancestor's grave would be abandoned or lost as they'd sold the property. So they said, bury him up there with those other soldiers. And someone said, but those are rebel soldiers. And they said, so is he.
The ultimate rebel.
The ultimate rebel. He rebelled against Britain. They called him a rebel, so bury him up there with other rebels. And that's where he lies today. Except the Confederate tombstones are pointed and his is rounded, like all other U.S. veterans.
No, that's interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah. Well, we have a history professor
that's
here.
Right.
Of course
I know.
It's interesting.
A wealth of information.
Well, let's hope it's interesting. It's true.
And
yeah, again, if you have comments and you don't want to call in, because some of us are shy, you can leave us a comment on the Facebook page and we'll relay it to Michael. And
above all, if you have questions that you'd like to ask Dwayne Sherrill about his mystery books.
On the 23rd.
On the 23rd at 7 o'clock, go by the library and get one of his books. And then when you come to the meet the author night, buy one of his books. They sell incidentally for $10 or $15, depending on which book. So very affordable. It'd be fun to get a book signed by the author. Just think, when he sells the movie rights to this, you'll have something you can put on eBay.
Oh, there you go.
Absolutely.
There you go. That will be good.
And he's an enterprising young man,
He's
so that is very possible.
So you never know what's going to happen next. Exactly.
Well, when he sells enough books, I assume he'll leave this work and just do writing full time.
Making a living writing, you have to be a John Gresham to do that. You have to sell millions and millions of books, because the royalty on the book is anywhere from 7.5% to 10% of the wholesale price.
I think he gets a lot of his fodder for the books from his job too.
Of course does. He does cut off his source of inspiration.
That's right.
So if a book is selling to you for $20, the bookstore got a 40% discount. They got it for $12. And the author's going to get between 7.5% and 10% of that $12. So
My
a
goodness.
little less than $1 a book for each one that's sold over the counter. So you better be a John Gresham and sell 1 million or so copies of each
Or
book.
get those movie deals where you can make some money.
Where you make some money.
That's where J.K. Rowling has become probably the wealthiest writer, and it's from the movie deals.
A movie and the subsidiaries, yeah. But that's why we have so many local authors who have a day job. It's very difficult.
Right.
It's very difficult to make a living. Right, you've got to have a huge audience because it's not big books.
Yeah, and a lot of these writers, they don't do it for the money. They do it because it's they're passionate about writing. Sure. They love, they're storytellers.
They have a story
like
they want to tell. Yeah, this is the way to tell it.
Oh, that's how you got started.
Precisely, and the way I've kept on, as a matter of fact.
So there's some historic sites in Franklin County.
Oh my, yes, going way back.
There was a hospital out there across from the old skating rink. Was that not a hospital at one point?
You're talking about over on the
Peabody Road.
Peabody Road. Is that in the Camp Forest property?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. You've lost me on that one.
Oh my gosh!
But I do know there was a hospital out at Camp Forest that was inside Franklin County, which during the time of World War II, when that training camp was in existence, was the largest hospital in the state of Tennessee and one of the largest in America. It had 5,000 beds.
Wow! No kidding.
Yeah, so that was a huge hospital. Now you have history here that goes back to the earliest settlers, and of course the history before that. But unfortunately, the original inhabitants here didn't write it down, so it's been lost. But we have history going back for a couple hundred years in Franklin County and covering all sorts of interesting sideshows and tidbits and important events as well.
So do you do speaking tours?
Oh yes, I've been on speaking tours to Paris, London, Rome, and Athens. That's Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, and Alabama.
A world traveler. We're so happy for you.
But never been more than 200 miles from home.
Well, you have been now, because we have folks watching from London and Australia, Vietnam, all over the place. I'm not sure the appeal.
I have one good loyal reader in London. So hello, Gordy, if you're there.
Awesome.
Glad to see you.
Okay, well, we thank you for coming aboard here.
My pleasure.
We're a few minutes to the end. You may as well sit with us to the end.
I shall. I will do so.
Yeah, because we're going to...
let me say that one of the other authors we have in mind writes and is very interesting. I mentioned his name, that he would be coming in July. He has a relative, an aunt who's now deceased, who was an artist, but she made her art out of roadkill.
Wow. Oh my! Sounds delicious.
Sounds delicious. Well, down in South Georgia, roadkill tends to bake as hard as the tabletop. So she would find animals that had been flattened and literally sun-baked, and she would make yard art out of them.
Well, so, I've never heard of that
before. I haven't either, and I'm just as glad not to have heard of it but once. But you have all sorts of interesting people who will show up. I have another fellow whose books are all based on interviews with World War II veterans.
Oh, that's amazing.
There's still a few around, and he's making sure he preserves their stories while he can. And we have some other people who write inspirational poetry, some people who write funny stories, as well as children's literature and fantasy. Fantasy is an enormously popular subject for writers right now. And we have probably 8 or 10, maybe a dozen fantasy writers living in and immediately around Franklin County.
I'm so glad you're checking these out for us. This sounds really good.
Well, it can be a very interesting sort of experience. Yeah. And you meet some interesting people in the process.
Absolutely. Do you have a calendar of what's coming up already?
We're only one ahead.
Only one ahead.
Only one ahead. Okay. And that one, she asked that we announce it on the 23rd, so she can have it locked in on her calendar at that time.
Okay.
But then we have July and October also tentatively lined up, and we'll make those available.
Okay. And we'll announce those on our Facebook page, just like we did with the other.
And we hope this will be a success, because we want anybody who reads, we want you to come. And even if you don't read,
come and listen.
Come and listen.
But this is an outing for readers, just to meet somebody who writes and who has written commercially successfully.
Right. Well, we thank you for providing this for folks,
yes,
and I'm sure you'll grow into that monthly before you're ready.
Well, we'll hope so. We'll cross our fingers.
I just want to say, Dick, if you didn't have something, go ahead. But I just want to let people know that our first Hive Notes show is tonight, and we're going to have live music here every Monday night, just a conversation with the artists and let them play some of their music. So that's tonight at 7 p.m. Olivia will be hosting that, and she's a lot of fun. So we hope you'll join us at 7 o'clock tonight.
And I have an announcement that the Franklin County, that the County Buzz, in cooperation with several organizations in Nashville and Middle Tennessee that are supporting the medical marijuana bill that's before the General Assembly now. We're having a live webcast, a forum on medical marijuana. We'll be broadcasting it from the Sevier Park Community Center in Nashville, Green Hills, and we'll have a number of guests who are prominent in the field of medical marijuana, including a couple from the Vanderbilt University. So I think that'll be an interesting conversation we're going to start. There are two Republicans, Representative Jeremy Faison and State Senator Stephen Dickerson, who each introduced the bill in their respective houses. And it's actually, it looks fairly promising. There seems to be a lot of medical people lining up saying, if we restrict it to these uses, then it would be okay to have medical marijuana.
Yeah. And it's hard to argue when you see testimonials from patients, and particularly from parents who have children who benefit from medical marijuana. So
the people in Tennessee that are using marijuana now are using it illegally, and one individual who will be speaking lost his family. He went to Colorado for treatment. Mm-hmm. He was treated in Colorado, where medical marijuana as well as recreational is legal. He came back to Nashville, and they drug tested him, found him positive for THC, and took his children away from him. He's fit to be tied.
Oh, I'm sure.
And has a compelling story as to some of the damaging things that are happening to Tennessee families as a result of marijuana laws. So,
certainly a growing number of states are making medical marijuana readily available, and a number of them are states that are just as conservative in their social views as Tennessee is.
Well, when you see a child having a fit, and that seizure could be gone away with a little marijuana, it's compelling. And we're very proud that we're going to join with these other people, present the argument. I don't have my position is a personal one, but we'll let the public decide and the General Assembly decide on that. So, and I think on that note, if we'll pop up another weather slate, Michael, so we could get people out the door with a good look at today.
It'll be in front of him if we pop it
That's
up.
That's right. So, Michael, we're going to cover you up, it looks like.
No, it's okay. We don't need to pop it up. We'll just let folks know that it's 57 degrees outside right now, overcast, cloudy. We're expecting maybe a little bit of precipitation to roll in later on, but there's only about a 25% chance. Supposed to be near 70. So get out and enjoy it on your day off.
You don't need any firewood.
No, you don't. Thank you for joining us on the Buzz.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for inviting me to join you.
Thank you.
Hey, it's been a pleasure.